So did you guys know that John Lennon and Yoko Ono wrote a song called Women is the N-Word of the World? Because it was news to me. See, the song is by John and Yoko Ono with their backing band, Elephant's Memory, from their 1972 album.
So we just found this watching some documentaries, and we didn't know anything about this. And so obviously it's a striking statement, but intentionally so. So what was your first impression when you heard that?
Well, let me just say that I'm a cinephile, especially when it comes to documentaries. I love them very much.
And
so.
music. Yeah.
Yes. And I've been on a John
Journey.
Lennon, Yoko Ono kind of kick lately. So I was watching this documentary called John and Yoko Above Us Only Sky. And this song popped up in the documentary, and I was like, what? Because I've never seen a white man actually have the pass to say the N-word before. Especially so much on TV. Huh?
Would you say he had the pass?
He absolutely had the pass. Yeah.
Do you think maybe because it was a different time?
Not only was it a different time, but you didn't really see anyone else saying that. I mean, Dick Cavett did say it on that one gay guy's show not too long ago when he was talking about the story. He just said it blatant.
Yeah, straight up.
Straight up. But I was super surprised at that because I didn't hear anyone grumbling about it.
I would assume it's because he's already been through it. You know what I mean? It's like
Probably.
It's like he already had them on the show to sing this song and dealt with complaints then in the 70s, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we're now 30 years, 40 years in the future. Actually, it's technically 50 years. My bad. My math's off. Let's say you're 50 plus years in the future.
Yeah.
You've already dealt with this. You're old. Who cares if you say it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but most people today would be like, oh, you can't say that word at all. It's bad. It's evil.
Well, I
you're
guess
racist.
two people get the pass then. John Lennon and Dick Cavett.
He definitely got the pass. I'm going to play that clip once we kind of get into more about the song. Okay.
Obviously, we can't play it because we'll get demonetized. So please feel free to look it up.
Yeah, we're not going to be playing the song, but we're going to be playing his explanation for
So
it.
when you initially told me this, I said, "Is it because women are oppressed?"
Well, let me get into like the Wikipedia explanation, and then we can get into the clips about it.
That was just my first impression, and I
Yeah.
wonder if you guys share the same first impression or what you think it could mean off the first run of the name.
Okay. So the phrase "woman is the N-word of the world" was coined by Yoko Ono in an interview in 1968, and she claimed that women were the most oppressed group in the world. Literary analysts note that the phrase owes much to Nora Zeal Hurston's novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, which I've heard of before, but I don't think I've ever read it. In which the protagonist, Jane Crawford's grandmother, says,
It's written so you're going to sound black when you say it.
oh, yeah. The N-word woman is the mule
of the world.
of the world, so far
Nope.
as can see.
So it's saying, in the novel, the grandmother says that the N-word woman is a mule of the world as far as this woman can see. Authors used to use that, like I believe Mark Twain.
Yes, I remember that.
And it's for dialect, so you can actually read in character.
So Lennon wasn't originally for the statement. He was against it. But then when he saw the cover on the magazine that was interviewing Yoko about it, it changed his mind. And they began recording the song. Writing it and then recording it. So in the summer of 1972, there was an interview that they did on the Dick Cavett show.
Which we talked about a little bit.
Yeah. And he talked about the inspiration of the song. Lennon cited Connolly's statement that the female worker is the slave of the slave in explaining the pro-feminist inspiration behind the song. So before they went on Dick Cavett, he had to give this little spiel, and people were more upset about the spiel at the beginning than the song itself.
At this point in the show, which was taped a week ago, John and Yoko got into something which ABC feels may develop into, in their words, a highly controversial issue. It revolves around the song "Woman is a Nigger of the World" and the obvious fact that some members of our black audience will or may be offended by the use of that word. In the next segment, John Lennon gives his reasons for writing the song and for using the word. I permitted this insertion into the show that I'm doing now as the only alternative to a full deletion by ABC of the segment. Watch it. Let us know what you think.
Just for context, a lot of times when you have someone on the show, especially when you know there's someone who reaches for controversy for attention,
Yeah.
to tell them that you have to make a statement is ridiculous.
He thought it was ridiculous too, by the way.
And if you don't want them to say these words, this should be established before they show up. It just goes to show people wanted to watch to see John Lennon and Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
To not let them up on stage or to make a fuss about it is to stop them from seeing people who are exponentially famous and people they want to hear from, regardless of whatever their statement is. That is freedom of speech.
Now we're going to get into the deeper meaning behind the song and the actual facts. So we're going to play the clip of John and Yoko explaining the meaning of the song.
You have a record here that bears some explanation because there's a bit of hassling going on as to whether or not it can be sung or not.
Yeah, there's always, every other record I seem to have a hassle with.
Yeah.
Well, this is a song about the women's problem. It was written by Yoko and I. And the song is called Woman is the Nigger of the World. And obviously there was a few people that reacted strangely to it, but usually they were white and male. But I'll tell you the story of how it came about. In 1969, I put it on the cover of the single so as it helps explain it a bit. Yoko did an interview with a woman about the woman's problem, and I didn't have anything to do with it. And then I noticed the cover, it was called Nova. It's an English woman's magazine like McCall's or something like that. And the first time I heard about it was I saw it on the cover of McCall's like that. And it sort of said, she, woman is the nigger of the world. Well, at the time, I was more of a chauvinist than I am now. And I must say, I was saying, well, come on, what about this and what about that? And I argued a lot. And then, as like everybody else, we talked more and more about it. In the last 2 years, it became more of a thing. And I had to, find out about myself and my attitude to women. And this phrase of hers kept coming through my head, woman is the nigger of the world, woman is the nigger. So I said, come on, Yoko, look, this is it. You've said it here. I agree with you now. I think she is. She's the slave of the slaves. That's what Connolly said, the great Irishman. And so we sat down together and we wrote, we tried to write together the whole story as best we could in a 3 or 4 minute song. And it's called Woman is the Nigger of the World. And then luckily for me, because a lot of stations were saying, well, we're not going to play this because it says nigger and a white man shouldn't say it. Though all my black friends feel I have quite a right to say it because they understand it. And then, strangely enough, the chairman of the Black Caucus, that great guy, Congressman Ron Dellums, Democrat California says here, he came out with this, which is fantastic. If you define niggers as someone whose lifestyle is defined by others, whose opportunities are defined by others, whose role in society is defined by others, then good news. You don't have to be black to be a nigger in this society. Most of the people in America are niggers. I didn't say that. Oh, my goodness. We'll never get in now. I think the word nigger has changed. It does not have the same meaning as it used to. And I think he put it very succinctly there. And I really believe women have the worst. Whatever it is, however badly or poor people are, it's the woman that takes it when they get home from work.
Well, now would you...
Now, we did some research on ChatGPT to figure out, is he right?
Well, it says generally that women were treated worse than anyone as slaves. Not only were they abused on the fields and plantations, they were also forced to do more labor, have babies, and oftentimes were abused in other ways by the slave owners. Sometimes sexual, sometimes not. And so asking ChatGPT, the answer of, was there recorded violence between slaves and their wives? The answer is yes. There's no record of how many or what situations they were in. And this is what it said when looking it up. Oftentimes the whip was used on the plantation, so the whip was used at home. So clearly, especially then, women had it very rough. Women plus any type of race added, that's not usually white, generally had it harder. So this statement isn't necessarily wrong. The reason people have such a negative reaction is because of the language used. But the language used is intentional because they're making a direct correlation. They're saying if you don't look at race, then these people are treated equally. Like if you look at it just as a situation because of how they were born and not just race or just this. Just their gender is causing this. Just their race is causing this. It's two different sides of the same coin.
But even among races that are systemically or societally oppressed. The women of those races have it harder.
Well, so this is the rabbit hole we ended up going down was so then the question comes up of, so you asked me who faces more issues then, right? Mm-hmm. Would it be different races or women?
Yeah.
And
globally.
The long and short of it is that racism or racist actions, especially these days, are not looking like killing people unless you're in war-torn countries. Nowadays, it's pockets of people who have violence towards different races. However, systematically, women are being withheld. We asked if the U.S. was even considered a country where men and women were equal, and it's not. It said there's actually no country where women and men are considered equal.
But the closest country that has the most equality among men and women is Iceland.
Yes, that is what it said.
But they're still not completely equal.
No, and breaking down things in the U.S., they say things like gender equality doesn't exist because there's now laws restricting women getting services on their bodies. And also, men are submitted to the draft with no women being submitted. So there's no equality between men and women in those two laws alone. To break down even further, people don't treat women equally, job discrimination, that kind of thing is harder to see because it's in little niches, kind of like the racism. However, it still affects women. And if a woman happens to be of a different ethnic background and just a woman, she has even harder of a time getting around in life. And so, like I said, at the end of the day, you can look up the numbers. You can look up, we literally went to, I forget the name of the site, but we went to get the actual scores out of 100 where each country lies. And the U.S. is at like a 91.3 for equality. And then Korea's at 80, which is concerning in comparison.
And then the worst countries for women just kind of happen to be in the Middle East.
And that's because these countries have laws, tons of laws against women. And yes, the U.S. is better. That doesn't mean it's equal. And even still, women are going to face issues. The problem is how shocking the title is.
Yeah.
Because we've made one word absolutely triggering. And he wanted to make use of that. Is this triggering you? Then this should be too.
But what most people will kind of see when it comes to this title is I think that most people would see this title and say, how dare women co-opt the oppression of different races?
Women come from other races, therefore they're not co-opting it. They're just saying this is the same.
Right, but you see how like even a woke Karen would be like, how dare you?
Even the statement they're referencing is from a woman writing from a black grandmother's.
Right.
So it's not necessarily.
But you do see how people will get mad, but because they won't actually really
That's
think
like
about
saying
it.
mad that that's like getting mad because someone donated to a cancer research because they have cancer and diabetes, but they didn't donate to the diabetes research because both things are bad.
But you don't hear in America a lot of people complaining about the oppression of women in comparison to the oppression of different races.
Yes. My point with it, I was saying, is that it's like getting mad that you have cancer and diabetes. And you're donating to the cancer research, but you're not donating to the diabetes research.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of sentiment because you're just getting mad that it's not what you wanted. But let's say that this person had more issues with their cancer. They felt like their diabetes was managed, so they put the money into the cancer research because they wanted that fixed. In this situation, you are right. And they are probably right, too. The word had lost its intense meaning.
Yeah.
People still didn't want to say it, but it had lost its intense of a meaning. Even today, you hear it on rap songs all the time.
Yeah.
So the word has lost its meaning. This is only striking because people want to be mad about it.
Yeah.
If you wanted the word to have its meaning still, you get mad for every rap song it was in. You get mad for every time it was used in conversation between two people.
But they're usually of a specific race. A white guy saying this is incredibly triggering to a lot of people. Exactly, yeah. But if you look at it in like an oppression scale of how society in America sees it, racism is way higher in the oppression scale as society views it in comparison to women's oppression. But if you look at it on scale as a whole, globally, or even in America, women have more oppression than races do. If you look at it as a whole, there are more intense pockets of racism in America than maybe women who are oppressed in America. But globally, women are more oppressed than races are.
Even, like I said, unless you're in a war-torn country, most countries are very open to having others in their space. So unless you're in a war-torn country, most people are trying to make peace happen. Therefore, very small pockets of racism happen where someone beats up someone just because they're that
Right.
color. Versus people, how many times do you see someone beat their wife and it's not labeled as a sexist crime? It's not domestic violence, but it's not labeled as sexist.
Or men are wording their
We're not.
wives.
We're
They
not
got
counting
away with
that as.
for a long
We're
time.
not counting those as sexism offenses. We're counting them as domestic or just regular violence or like whatever the case is. But we're putting racist by calling it a hate crime. We don't call domestic violence a hate crime, but that man clearly hates women.
Here's another weird form of oppression that women have that people of different races don't. A man can pretend to be a woman, and that is societally accepted. But a man cannot pretend to be a different race, and that's societally accepted.
Race is currently superior.
Right.
Yes.
But a man can identify as a woman, and he can win first place in strongest woman competition, and he can go into their spaces. But white people can't go into black people's specific spaces, and he can't identify as a black person. So there is a big difference that I don't think a lot of people see, but it's there in your face, and people are just like, women. But when you really think about it, it's like, wait a second, they are more oppressed. Holy crap, just look at the whole world. The world as a whole. You can see it, or even in society. In America, you could see it. Now, the woke people will say, well, we're putting more women in jobs that men get paid higher for and stuff like that. But at the same time, you're also putting men who are pretending to be women in those jobs and counting them as women. Like, women are getting R-worded by men pretending to be women, and that's going into a stat of women R-wordists. But you can't do that with races. So there's like this double standard, and you can see how the oppression completely differs in certain areas. That's what I had to say about that.
And I think that generally speaking, this is something that people continue to do. Shock value is something you still see today. He just did it way sooner than we did.
Yeah. And you know what? Not a lot of people knew about it.
No, and at the same time, like, not to be that person, but you're not going to get arrested for saying it.
Actually, they're trying to arrest Shiloh Hendricks for calling that little black boy.
Well, especially then you couldn't get arrested for saying it.
No, then you couldn't.
Currently
But today,
today,
they're trying to, yeah.
Well, today you still probably could. If you get a good lawyer, I think you're good. Freedom of speech, baby.
yeah, freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech.
Must be trying
It
to
trumps
the
it.
UK.
It trumps it every time. Freedom of speech. If she like got in that kid's face and started yelling, you could argue that she was endangering a child.
And being abusive, yeah.
Or abusing or endangering a child. That's different. But she's not going to get arrested for saying the N-word.
Right, but people, like the woke mob, they'll say that words are violence, and therefore her saying the N-word to that black kid was violence. And so, like, they're trying to use this weird...
Does he have bruises, scratches?
No. They're trying to change that and make it like the UK where you get arrested for
I don't
a post.
agree. I don't agree with her doing it either. I really don't, personally. I think that you should be way more mature as an adult in the room at any given point with a child.
Yeah.
You have a car, you have feet, you can walk away. And at the end of the day, you make money, don't you? So whatever they took from you, unless it's your wallet.
Yeah, I mean, she could have just called him a little jerk and then it wouldn't be all over the news.
I'm just trying to like respect every other person around me.
It seems like back in the day, more people had a pass to using it. Now, a lot of people did use it for negative reasons, but John and Yoko were actually not using it for a negative reason. They were using it for shock value to put out a message. When I was reading the comments, some
Just
people
saying.
were saying, oh, he used the my black friends excuse. Like, I have black friends so I can say it. And it's like, you're missing the picture, dude. You're using your small brain. Use your big brain if you have one. They just saw injustices and they were trying to fight for peace and equality. And
Maybe
sometimes you have to be a little shocking. You have to do like a bed in. They did their honeymoon in a bed.
I was watching a video where Yoko
It was like
was
a protest.
I was watching a video where Yoko wasn't even singing. Yoko was just on some bongo, some like drum or whatever, and I was dying because Yoko was. I was like, God damn, Yoko, calm down.
She was very passionate. She was quiet,
Lots of cocaine.
but she was very passionate.
Dun, dun. And I was like, oh, Yoko. It was like soft dom. And I was like, oh, Yoko, you're scaring me.
Well,
Don't worry.
Yeah, no, Yoko did grow up in a very, very rich family. but she was a very outspoken, dominant, free, artistic woman. Back then, a lot of women weren't, and only a handful were. And so I'll give her those props, even though her singing voice was absolutely atrocious.
I think she took challenges and adventures that I would not vocally take.
Especially back then, yeah. But when you have the money, especially back then...
That's what she sounds like a lot of the time.
Well, John and Yoko, they did this weird, was it like a screaming seminar or something like that? Just like scream chant seminar, something along those lines. And I think maybe that's where she got the idea to do that specifically. And if you've ever heard the song, Don't Worry, Kyoko, I highly recommend watching that. It is completely entertaining.
Can I just say that when I looked it up on YouTube, it was less exciting. That's why I had to find it in the documentary.
Okay, so there's a documentary on HBO called John and Yoko 1-to-1.
The timestamp is about 33 minutes in.
Yeah, and when I first saw it, I'm like, this is god-awful. But then it just kept replaying in my head. It was an earworm like I had never experienced before in my life. And now it has become one of my most...
Cherished possessions.
Yeah, it's like if I want to smile, I'll think of that. And that actually had to do with her husband kidnapping her child for 2 years, and John and her were trying to go across the country and find out where she was, but he had hidden the child in a cult.
Yoko had a child in America, and her first husband was American. After the divorce, the relationship was all right between us and Mr. Cox, and we had Kyoko, and then he had her, and it was fine. Well, one day, something happened, and we just didn't see her, and Yoko hasn't seen her child for 2 years. For 2 years, we've been chasing him all over.
I had watched this with zero context because she just showed me. And I continued the whole time. I was like, I'm not worried. And then I was like, I'm starting to get worried. And then I was like, listen, I'm getting seriously worried.
And now she loves it. So
thanks for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing.
We'll see you in the next one.
Hype this shit.
Peace, everybody, peace. Woman is the N-word of the world. I come from Liverpool. John Lennon. And here's Yoko.
Are you still going?
Yeah.